Hello everyone and welcome to SkShadow. Welcome back to F1 2020, and this time we are at the British Grand Prix, so it is our home race as well as ILOT's home race as well, so a decent result for both of us would be very nice. But we do have some activities to plan, and the ones I decided to do are reaction training, power equipment upgrade and sponsor event conference, because they will give us a bit of team acclaim and also make our teammate a little bit better, hopefully. Sponsor wise, if you remember, we got to team acclaim level 10, which means that we can apply a third sponsor to our car, and the one I choose is Sunburst. So their weekly goal is to complete a clean race, and they've got a decent weekly income and gold bonus. So I thought that one's probably one of the easier ones to do, as obviously our other two are just to complete a race with no DNFs within the team. Obviously a new sponsor means we get to apply it to our car, so I go for a bit of a yellow colour scheme on a Sunburst, other than on the back wing, where I go for black, just because I think that looks quite cool. And that is our finished car. Development wise, we've got 963 resource points to be able to spend, so I'm just looking there to see what I can spend it on, and I can only really do an engine upgrade, so I go for an energy recovery system upgrade. And we've got a durability coming, hopefully 15th of July, which is before the race, but it did fail, as you've just seen.
Some of them have failed,
so we have to redo that one, costing us a further 287 points, and then that's not going to come until Spa, which is slightly annoying. So we don't actually have any upgrades coming into this race, but we'll go to the race weekend and we can see that the weather forecast is dry for both the qualifying and the race, which is fantastic. So no spanners in the works there. And we also see an email from Carl, who's telling us we have a new upgrade package for our power unit. So that is directly from Mercedes themselves, rather than us upgrading it, because obviously you choose an engine supplier and they also do some upgrades themselves, irrespective of you doing them. And we are now the third to last team, so we are very slightly higher than Alfa Romeo now. But again, the midfield is very close anyway, so it's not a huge problem. But I'll do the practice and then I'll see you in qualifying. So we're into qualifying now. Obviously a decent result in qualifying would be fantastic, as it is the home race for both of our drivers, me and ILOT, as well as the team. Because obviously I'm going to say that the team was made in Britain, because that would make sense. I mean, I haven't got my hopes up though, especially through this section, Maggotts and Beckett's. I'm never fantastic in terms of pace. Don't know why. I think it's just the AI are pretty good on Silverstone as well, so I have reduced the difficulty slightly, because normally I don't do fantastic. But we crossed the line with a 126.8, which after skipping a little bit puts us P15, with our teammate ILOT doing a 128.1. So he's miles away from us. I think that is partly the fact that I've put the difficulty down, but also the fact that, you know, ILOT just hasn't been very fantastic in qualifying or even in the races, to be honest. He should definitely be above Williams, for example. George Russell's done a 127.5. But yeah, I did do another run and that put us P11 in the end with a 126.7. And our teammate seemingly improved a little bit with a 127.9, but still that puts him 21st. Just still below the Alfa Romeos, below 2 Haas and below George Russell of the Williams, so that is certainly not fantastic. But this is my running Q2, and I'm just going to let you watch the whole thing because I think it is quite a decent lap. So that lap we did a 1:26.466, which I certainly do think is the absolute fastest we could go. I mean, there were a couple of bits where we locked up, so could have gained back a few thousandths, but nothing major. Obviously we did go wide a couple of times, but not too much of an issue. But yeah, that put us 1:26.4, which has put us P14 for the time being. Obviously I don't do another run because I didn't think I could go any faster, and I ended up with P15. Obviously you can see the Renaults are much higher than they were last time. That is because I did increase the difficulty by 4 points after Q1 because it was a little bit too easy, but we'll see you in the race.
Welcome along then to Great Britain and the Great Silverstone Circuit for today's Grand Prix. The 3.6 miles of the Silverstone Circuit in Great Britain is hallowed ground to the Formula One faithful. We have 18 corners that wrap around this former World War II airbase and some good passing opportunities at the end of the DRS zones. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid we have Verstappen, Albon, Lance Stroll and Vettel, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, Perez, Ocon, Pierre Gasly, the engineer, Magnussen, Grosjean, Kimi Raikkonen and George Russell, Giovinazzi, Ireland, Latifi and Daniel Kvyat completes the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So we ended up 14th in the end because Kvyat got his penalty. It's quite nice to see Bottas is on pole. Let's see if he can turn that into a win. But strategy-wise, we're literally just going for a softer medium. It's lights out away we go. Looks like most people got a reasonably good start. You see us just in the background there as we move on board. You see us go for a massive dive bomb around the inside of all those guys, and then we find a small gap in between the Racing Point and the Renault to our left, and actually manage to get past the Renault at the same time. He's staying side by side with us. I think it's Ricciardo, but we do just manage to squeeze him and keep the place there. As we move on to lap 2, not much else happened on lap 1. You can see Ricciardo is behind us about 5 tenths, and we've got Norris ahead about 9 tenths. If we can stay in the DRS zone, that would be good. But we've got a yellow flag for some reason. Kvyat is out of the session apparently. So if we look here, this is Kvyat going for an overtake on a teammate, and he just taps the back wheel with his front wheel, and that's why he's out of the session. But we did end up with a virtual safety car because of it. So yeah, the virtual safety car ends now. We actually lost a little bit of time to Norris. He's just over a second ahead of us now. Ricciardo's about 6 tenths behind us. So currently not in the DRS zone of Norris, which isn't fantastic. But if we can keep hold of that, that would be good. Because obviously, defending-wise, we're going to be having a bit of a struggle to try and keep Ricciardo and Perez behind us. If you think about how much of an issue Ocon has been in the past few races, we're now having to defend off his much faster teammate Ricciardo. And then that's not even counting Perez, who's in a Racing Point, which should be a lot faster than us. But as you just heard, DRS is now enabled. Lock up into that corner certainly isn't going to help us, but Ricciardo is definitely going to have DRS, and we've skipped to lap 4, and we're now 3.8 seconds behind Norris and 4.2 behind Sainz. So yeah, we're absolutely nowhere near either of them, so we're not going to be getting the benefit of DRS anytime soon. You can see Ricciardo's sticking about 1/10 behind us for that entire section, so he's definitely being a little bit fast there. But you can see we've got a green sector 1 and a green sector 2, so yeah, we're certainly not losing time here. And you can see we are side by side with Ricciardo going into these last few corners, and he's still upper inside trying to go for the overtake, but going across the last corner we actually go a little bit wide, but we do manage to keep hold of it for the time being, and we do make a little bit of contact with Ricciardo there, and it makes him pivot over a little bit, and Perez actually ends up ahead. However, skim to lap 5, we can see behind us is now actually Ricciardo and Gasly.
5.4 seconds. They're on old softs. They're in 19th. The time last lap was a 1:30.7.
So you can hear Jeff has told us our teammates' last lap was a 1:30.7, and our best so far is only 1:30.8. So it's at that point I'm realising, hold on, I'm perhaps a little bit off the pace here. So crossing the line for lap 6, I go for a bit of a push lap and pretty much just see how fast I can get. You can see on the map there on the bottom left that I zoomed into, Ricciardo's actually gone into the pits, so he must have got a little bit of wing damage or something when we made contact. So he's no longer too big of an issue for us. We've now just got Gasly and Perez behind us. They're going to be trying to overtake us anytime soon, but we have crossed the sector 2 line. You can see we're already about 5 temps up, and then as we cross the line we are 6.8 temps up, so we've done a 1:30.1, so we've shown that we do have a bit of pace, we just weren't finding it. And after finding out what our teammate was doing, I realised, you know what, probably need to be a little bit quicker, otherwise we're just going to get swamped by all the guys behind. Because if you look on the map, behind us, obviously we've got Gasly, and there's a bit of a gap to Ocon, but behind him there's a huge train of cars, and then our teammate a little bit further back. So yeah, we're in a bit of a situation if we end up getting passed by all of those guys. We are currently sitting P10, so we're in the points, which would be a fantastic place to finish on our first home Grand Prix, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to. As you see, Gasly trying to dive up to overtake us, but doesn't get the move done. We do manage to stick to the racing line and stay ahead, and we find out that our teammate Ilot is now out of the session. So that's not good, because sponsor payment wise, obviously our new sponsor was to keep a clean race, which we have been hit, so that won't count. And then our other 2 sponsors are to finish the race with no DNFs within the team, and now we've had one. So this race we're going to get absolutely 0 sponsor payout, which is not good when we could potentially be signing a new teammate. But I don't know if you saw that there, but there was a little bit of movement and I felt something in my steering wheel, and if you look, Gasly literally just hits us and he ends up with a bit of his front wing off. So that's the second bit of contact we made there, and we squeeze him all the way to the wall, which allows us to take the racing line and stay ahead. Yeah, even with his damaged wing, he's still keeping about 1.5 temps through Maggots and Beckett's. I mean, I know I'm not particularly quick through that, and I said that in qualifying, but yeah, it's pretty good that he's able to do that. However, he does actually dive into the pits for some reason. Maybe his engineers decided that the damage was too big for him to carry on without changing the wing there. But he was keeping up, so I'm not too sure on that. Now you see Ocon has caught up with us, and he's trying to get past us through the Maggots and Beckett section, which is a bit unorthodox. You don't really see many moves through there. But we are going up to a DRS zone now, so we're chucking on the overtake, trying to keep the position. Although he is gaining on us, he's going down our left. We stick to the right, allows us to push him out a little bit, and we do actually keep the position. And then you can see the little arrow veering off to the right. That is because he has dived into the pits, so he's not going to be an issue for us for the next lap or so. As you can see, we skip to lap 11, and Perez is trying to go down our inside, and we make a tiny bit of contact, but it allows us to squeeze him out and keep the position for the meantime. Obviously you've got Grosjean behind really close as well, so it's not just Perez we've got to try and fend off at the moment. Obviously a few of the guys ahead have pitted, so at the moment we are P6, but obviously that's not going to stay for very long. All the while we're trying to defend from Prez, he's actually got his own issues with Grosjean, so through this entire section he is side by side the whole time. And it looks like Prez just about wins the battle, but end of lap 11 we dive into the pits, and you can see, I don't know if you saw that, but Prez and Grosjean were actually side by side going into the pits, which is a bit crazy, but the timing screen says Prez is ahead, so seems like he's won that battle. And our pit crew do a 3-second stop, which certainly isn't the best that we've seen, but it's not the worst, so it's pretty average for our pit crew, I'd say. And we come out P14, So just ahead of Prez, behind our arch nemesis Ocon, by the seems of it. But he is on hards for some reason. So most of us have gone on to mediums, but he's on hards. We've got Giovinazzi in P12, but he's on softs. So I'd imagine he's still got to stop. And then that will put us up to P13 when he does. And we're just looking at our engine wear there, and 3 of the components are pretty heavily worn. So yeah, it's definitely going to be the last race for this engine set, I'd imagine. We are actually on our second and only control electronics unit, which we changed in Austria, and that is already getting very worn. So I imagine we've got one more race out of that, and then we're going to have to take a penalty to get a new one. So it's pretty early to be getting penalties, but you know, we've got a new car. The durability section isn't very well developed, but we've moved to lap 13 and we are seemingly slowly gaining on Ocon. We're about 1.3. We're actually now just under a second, and Prez we've actually pulled away from, so he's about 1.8 at the moment. So if we are able to stick with him, then we might be able to get into DRS of Ocon. And I don't know if you saw, but we set our best lap of the race on that lap as well. So we're showing that the medium tyre is perhaps the better race tyre at Silverstone, which it normally is due to, you know, tyre wear and tyre pressures, that sort of thing. But yeah, we're just skipping forward here. Not a huge amount happens. We're just chasing after Ocon, seemingly slowly losing time, and Prez is very, very slowly gaining on us. You see 1.1, 1.4. Yeah, but we're not getting anywhere near Ocon at this point. And stopping here, we've got Prez is now within the DRS zone, so he has actually gained on us in that sense, and he's still got Grosjean pretty close behind him. So Grosjean's having a nice bit of a fight there with the Racing Point. Racing Point very much out of position. He should be a lot nearer the best of the rest, as they say, rather than fighting for P11 and P12 out of the points. It's a bit out of the range for the normal Racing Point. I'm not sure where Stroll is. Maybe he's more like where he should be. But we're on board with Prez, and you wouldn't believe it, but he goes along and he hits us and loses a bit of his front wing. So that is the second time we've been hit by a car that isn't our fault, and then they lose front wing. And you can see going through this section, it's already losing him a load of times. He's 1.2 behind now. Grosjean's definitely going to be overtaking him anytime soon. Yeah, as we see on board, Grosjean making it look easy, which it certainly shouldn't be for a Haas against a Racing Point, like I said. But yeah, at this point you can see Perez has now dived into the pits, and it has revealed a Ricciardo in P13, who is also on the hards. So it seems the Renault engineers have decided that the hard tyre is the better one to be on rather than the medium. Maybe the Renault at this point in the season has pretty bad tyre wear and maybe couldn't actually run the mediums to the end from when they pitted. But we got Giovinazzi out of the session, which has resulted in another safety car, the second one of the session, and it ends just as we cross the line. And we are now 3 seconds behind Ocon and about 1.3 ahead of Grosjean. So yeah, we're definitely not catching up with Ocon, and certainly not catching up with Sainz, 20 seconds ahead. The fight now for the next 5 laps is to pretty much try and keep Grosjean behind. Little mistakes like that are certainly not going to help the cause. Although we're going into a yellow flag section, so Grosjean wouldn't even been able to overtake us if he tried. We crossed the line, doing our best lap of the race, showing that even though these mediums are, you know, fairly old, we're still getting a good amount of pace out of them, setting a 1:29.3. Although Grosjean is very much sticking behind us, he's now, you know, half a second behind. So going into this DRS zone, we're probably going to need to use a fair amount of the overtake as we are to make sure that he doesn't try and go for a little dive bomb and overtake us at the end of this straight. Looks like Gasly has got past the Renault of Ricciardo.
There's only one.
Although we're on our last lap now. Grosjean is 4 tenths behind, Gasly about 7 tenths, 9 tenths now. And we cross the line in
All right, race over. Take care of the car
P11.
way in.
So yeah, we are P11 with a best of a 129.255, and obviously Grosjean did a 129.3. So I'd say pace-wise, we are pretty much where we should be. Obviously, we can't really compare ourselves to our teammate this time around because he DNF'd, so he wasn't even in it. Prez ended up P19 after having to pit after hitting us, which is very not good for the racing point. But yeah, Ilot DNF'd. His best was only a 130.7, and Kvyat DNF'd as well as Giovinazzi. So driver standings wise, we are now P8, so we have dropped, and then constructor standings we are P6, so we've also dropped a little bit there with 39 points. So the midfield battle is starting to open up a little bit. So you've got Ferrari, P4, 72 points. So they're definitely uncatchable there. But as you can see, next episode is going to be either renegotiating with a current teammate or perhaps even looking at other teammates. We've got the money for it. As you can see, we've got 10.38 mil. So we've definitely got enough money to hopefully get someone decent. But we'll have to wait for next episode to find out who that is. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. What a fantastic action. Check the links in the description. They're very good. But other than that, that's it from me. Good night.